Let me start by asking this question. If you had extra money sitting around and you had a choice between only two things, would you buy a purse or would you buy a pair of shoes? Okay, now let me see a show of hands now. Who would be interested in the shoes? Wow. Okay. All right, and the purses? Purse people? Okay, just a few. All right. Now, if the shoe people. Let me ask that question first. Would you buy the shoes because you need them or because you want them? Want them. Okay. 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 Tom, I'm not asking you this question. He didn't hear me. Okay, so you want them, and it's an impulse thing, and you say, you see them, I love them, I want to buy them. Let me ask the purse people. Would you buy a purse because the purse was something that matched something you already had, or just because you like the color? Like the color. You like the color? Yeah, all right. Now, are there people in this room who only buy black? Only buy black, okay, all right. The point I'm making of all this is that all of us will, during the course of our lives, we will buy purses and we will buy shoes. But we buy them for a lot of different reasons. And what's running the show that you don't even know about are the stories you made up about buying purses and buying shoes. So if your mother, let's say, was your role model, and every time she went to buy a pair of shoes, it was because she needed them, and they were the kind of shoes that you wanted to buy them because they were like, I don't want to call them the old lady shoes, but you know, they were functional and they were going to last. And if that's what you grew up with, then that's what you would probably gravitate towards when you go to buy shoes. If you wanted to buy a purse, you sometimes have to look and say, well, am I a person who buys a winter purse and a summer purse, and at a certain date that you artificially have created, then you switch them. Or maybe you have some that you put them together and you can pull them, three things out of one purse and put them in a new purse, and you're good to go every morning. And every morning you make that decision. That's probably because your mother did the same thing. So I'm just curious to know, are those observations accurate? Do most of you do that? Yes, because it's basically what you saw. And the thing is that a lot of times we don't even realize that those things are running the show. And so we make decisions because they're buried deep inside of our heads. So what's this got to do with anything that has to do with money? I say the reason is because we don't really think about money. We react to money the way we were taught. So if we think about it, this is the way it generally worked. Now I'm talking about the Ozzie and Harriet world that I grew up in, where my father was the breadwinner, not the primary breadwinner as the term comes now. There was no primary and secondary, it was just the breadwinner. And every Friday or every other Friday, depending how it was, Dad got a check. He went to the bank, he cashed the check. Some part of it he put in his pocket, some part of it he brought home, and some part stayed in the checking account for my mom to make out the bills. That's just the way it was. There was no question about it. All of her friends did exactly the same thing. And my dad's money was his money, no question. But all the money Mom had to be accounted for because it went for our allowances, it went for food, and she used to comb every single newspaper and knew exactly what day this store would have the sale, so that at the end of the week on Saturday morning, once I got to be 16, it was my job to go to the 3 or 4 stores and get all those things that were on sale. And I once remember saying to her, Mom, how much gas am I spending between all these different stores? And doesn't it make sense for 3 cents more? No, because they're on sale. They're on sale. All right, fine. So that's the way it worked. But all of her friends worked the same way. They all did the same thing. That's just the way it was done. So we all make up stories about money, and we don't know that we're making up the stories about money. I want to tell you one from my world that really was extremely impactful, but I didn't know it at the time. I was 16 years old, and I came home from school one day, and it was an ordinary, regular day. There was nothing spectacular about it. But when I jumped off the bus and waited for the bus to pass in front of me, I looked across the street and I realized there were 3 black cars, big sedans, that were parked on the street in front of our house. And I knew that these cars were not anything that belonged to our family. They didn't belong to any of our neighbors. And I got this knot in my stomach because I knew something was wrong, but I didn't know what it was. So on autopilot, I somehow crossed the street and got over to the sidewalk and started walking towards the house. And I was greeted at the front door by my mom, which was also a very strange thing because I always walked around the side of the house and went into the house from the kitchen door. So Mom greeting me at the front door made me even more nervous. So when she opened the door, she said to me, "Come on in, come on in, come on, get in here." And I said, "Why?" She said, "Just come on, get in here. I want you to go upstairs." I said, "Why do I have to go upstairs?" "Well, because your brother and sister are there and we're waiting for you. Come on." And this was in a very hushed tone, and that made me even more nervous. So finally I said to her, "What is going on?" And she said, "Oh, Lynn, will you please just go up the steps?" I said, "Fine, but what's happening in the house?" And by this time I have her hand in the small of my back pushing me up the steps. And she finally said to me, "Well, your father is in the dining room with the bankers, and they're talking about money, and he asked us if we please go upstairs and just wait till they're finished." I said, "Okay, I got it." And in that moment, without even knowing that I did this, I made up 3 very important stories, myths about money. The first was, women are never invited to have conversations about money. Second, women are probably incapable of having conversations about money. And the third was that men are really good money managers. That usually gets a laugh, I'm not sure why. But anyway, that's what I made up in that moment. And I didn't do it on a conscious level. So apparently after a while, there was some polite laughter downstairs, and I noticed that everybody left. And that was all that was ever said about it. No one ever said a word. Till 2 years later, when I was filling out the Parents' Confidential financial statement to go to college and get some loans, that my mom somehow, I can't remember how, we got into the conversation about what happened that day. And apparently, the house we were living in was owned by my grandfather, who had died about 6 months before that visit. And we found that he had pledged the house as collateral for a business loan. And when he died, the bankers came to collect the debt. Well, my parents didn't have the money to give them, so what happened was they were able to refinance that loan, and we stayed in the house. And when she told me this, now I understand. But then there was some part of me that got very angry at that, because I thought, this was a conversation about the roof over your head, and you were not invited into that conversation. This is crazy. But then I realized that's just the way it was. That was what happened at the time. So now we are women who are signing up for mortgages in our own names. We are investing in 401k plans. We are buying cars on finance. And we are starting our own businesses. So when did all this happen? How do we go from that to this? Well, the point is that even though we're doing all that, We are still, in so many ways, fundamentally ignorant about money. We still don't understand. And too many times we just deflect it or defer it to other people in our lives who we think know more. The reason that this is important is because one very important issue that is in our country right now. The largest group of people in poverty in this country are widows over the age of 65. I'm going to repeat that because that is incredible. The largest group of people in this country who are in poverty are widows over the age of 65. So I decided that I'm on a mission to stop that. So given that, there are things that we need to do to get started. First thing we need to do is to get smart about money. And you don't start from nothing and go to something overnight. So the first thing I would suggest is that you consider a place online called LearnVest.com. That's LearnVest. LearnVest.com is a site that was created by a woman who's in her 30s because she wanted other women to be educated on the basics of personal finance. You can sign up for this. It's a membership site. You can take courses there and even work with certified financial planners that are employees of this organization. So they have no axe to grind. They have nothing to sell. But it's a great place to start, a great place to begin to learn. The second thing I'd like you to do is go to my website, which is lynnevans.com. My business cards have a dot or period after the S. It's not in the name of the website, though. It's lynnesevans.com. And I want you to sign up for the newsletter, because the newsletter that I write is designed specifically for women to give you information about finances, things you need to know. And also, I think it's probably by this summer, a book I've written will be published. And if your name is there on my website, if you signed up for the newsletter, we will have, I'm sure, one hell of a wonderful launch party. So you'll want to be invited. So make sure you sign up. So let's change the course of history. I do not want any more impoverished widows while I'm still alive. So please join me in getting smart about money. Thank you.
Thank you.